you are in for an incredible treat. Have you ever felt like there was something more inside you that you just needed to get out? Like you were right at the edge of something amazing, but you didn't know how to get there? Raise your hand if you've ever felt that way. Okay. Then tonight, you are going to hear somebody else, hear from two very special people who did exactly, who were exactly where you were, where you are. And they chose to step forward into the dark, into the daring to do something wild and crazy. So before I introduce them, let me ask if there's anybody who has any questions about why we're here tonight. No, okay, good. I'm so excited. Um, to give you a little tip off, the way it's going to go tonight is I'm going to introduce. Oh, somebody's not able to hear. Let me turn that up. Does that help? Are you able to hear now? Let me know. Let me know. Can you hear now?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Good. Great. My name is Layne Gneiting, and as part of an extraordinary program, I get to take people all over the world and we do something daring. We go there on a bicycle and we cycle 400 miles as a nomad. We live off the land. We condense everything in our world down to what fits in a trailer behind our bikes. And that's where we go off into the wild unknown. And I wouldn't say it's frightening. It's more that it's daunting at times. It's challenging. It's daring. And recently we went to Morocco. The two people I'm going to introduce, one of them has done this multiple times. The other one, this was her first time. And going to North Africa, it was a little tenuous for some of us. But what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce first Kerie and then Trevan. Then we'll open it up for any Q&A, and then I'll cap it off with a video about the experience so you can get a real feel for what it was like. So let me introduce an extraordinary woman. Kerie Martin joined me at a time when she was at a significant low. She was going through a divorce. She was struggling with a lot of fears and anxieties that had plagued her for decades. She didn't know how to break out of them. She lived in a world where she believed inside, deep inside, that she had to create dragons and slay them to have meaning and value in the world. So we addressed those, and she ended up joining Morocco. I gave her the invitation, and she cried and said, I don't know why God is telling me to do this, but I need to go to Morocco. So she did. She came back a towering pillar of strength, and to let her tell the tale, I'm going to turn it over to her. And maybe Leslie, you can help me. How do we spotlight her so her screen appears big? You're muted.
She's spotlighted for me right now. Is she not spotlighted for you?
She's not for me.
Okay, let me see if I can go ahead and get started, and I'm going to work on that.
If individually, if you hover over Kerie's picture and click on maximize, that'll do full screen on her.
Okay, great. Super. Thanks, Trevan.
Hello,
Okay,
everyone. I am really excited to be here and to share with you my part of my journey. It's definitely just a snapshot, but yeah, I'm grateful for this opportunity. I'm going to read because I get emotional. So I need to kind of keep myself on pace. But can everyone hear me okay? Am I echoing? I'm echoing to myself. No? Okay. All right, here we go. So as Layne was saying, I embarked on my cycling trip to Morocco out of a deep need for change. I was angry all the time, buried under guilt, shame, self-judgment, and paranoia. I felt like a shadow of myself. I was trapped. I was very judgmental, harsh, and constantly at war within my own mind. I can't say exactly why Morocco, except that God knew I needed to be there. Resistance came from every direction. I didn't own a bike when I signed up. I had never ridden on a mountain, and I was out of shape. I was in the middle of, as Layne said, a brutal divorce after 20 years of marriage. And I had just started a new job. I was being asked to leave my home with my 2 children and would have to move to another state to live with my mother. So when I said, I'm going to Morocco, my son was terrified. He said, you're going to die in Morocco. And my mother actually echoed this fear. What happens if you don't come back? Who's going to take care of the kids? It would have been so easy for me to give up. And I almost did many times. But I had some mentors. My brother John had cycled with Layne through New Zealand, and he introduced me to him. And Layne would see me through my darkest moments. He didn't just shine a light on the darkness. He sat with me in it. No judgment, no escape, just presence. And that is where my healing began. He introduced me also to The Alchemist and Endurance, which are books that have still continued to shape me. So the moment for true commitment to me came on the 3rd day, actually. I'd already bought the bike, I'd done the training, booked and went on the flight. But all of that for me was just kind of going through the motions. I wanted to bail. I was out. I even called my mom and was like, hey, you got to help me change this flight. I'm going home. I'm out of here. But then we reached the top of the mountain, and it was time to descend. My son had said he knew I was going to die in Morocco, and at that moment, standing above the clouds, staring at the road that disappeared behind a sheer rock wall, I believed him. I begged Layne to let me get in a taxi, but he refused. He said, I'm not going to let you call a taxi. And if you call one, I'm not going to let you get in. He said, you've worked too hard to back out now. You have one choice. You can move into this hotel behind us, or I'll see you down at the bottom. And then he left me. So I had a choice. Who was I going to be? Was I going to be the girl who ran when things got hard? Or the girl who possibly died flying off the side of a mountain, but at least she went for it? I had to think about my kids. What would they see in me? And what would I see in myself? So I pushed off, and it was terrifying. I gripped the brakes even though I was warned that they could turn into glass. And I muttered, it's okay. You got this. You got this. But I didn't got that in my heart. It was when I said it differently. It's okay. I've got this. That something shifted. I realized that God had already paved the way. I just had to believe. All of the fear left me in that moment. It was like a weight lifted off of my chest, and what replaced it was pure elation. The road stretched out before me, and I could feel it. I could sense when to lean, when to turn, when to brake. and writing became fluid. It was art in motion, and it was the single most pivotal moment of my life. Now, after that, it wasn't all rainbows and sunshine. I mean, I struggled. I struggled up the mountains in the blazing sun, my legs burning, while Trevan and Layne just effortlessly passed me. And it triggered every childhood insecurity of never measuring up to my brothers. But in those hardest moments, I sang praises to God. And I felt him ask, "What are you doing?" "Singing praises to you," I answered. And I felt his response, "When I look down from heaven, this is how I see you." As a song of praise to me. Abdullah, a stranger that I met unexpectedly, became an ally. When Layne's tire blew, Abdullah helped me find a fair price taxi to help him. And when I tried to tip him, he smiled and he said, "My help is free." His kindness struck something deep in me because he had given freely, expecting nothing in return. And that was the kind of love I had struggled to accept my whole life. Layne had to constantly teach me how to receive love. Goodness. And to accept compliments without deflecting. I'd been so used to being put down that I didn't know how to handle genuine appreciation. The descent was my crucible. I was convinced I would die, but I let go of that fear. I stepped fully into joy. And when I reached the bottom, I was no longer the same person. I felt childlike elation and joy, and I could trust myself and my judgment for the first time in 20 years. I had stepped back into the light. Life had never had to be about fear, pain, anger, or frustration again. I never had to judge others again because I no longer judged myself. I could love freely, see God in everyone, embrace people without expectation or fear. I was free. And then I returned home. And immediately I was tested. See, my mother is the person who I've always sought approval for and never feel like I got it. Instantly, that clashed with my newfound joy. While I'd been in Morocco, she was taking care of my kids and my pets, and they had all gotten COVID. And when I returned, my son got the flu. She was stressed and furious, and I felt the pull back into anger and self-doubt and judgment and resentment. But this time I had the tools because Layne had taught me to love the triggers, to write them down, chase the story, and rewrite the truth. Instead of falling back, I used these moments to solidify my transformation. But this moment, this writing of this story has been my final test because I fought it. I avoided it. I made excuses. I messaged Layne with all the roadblocks. At one point, he even said, "You don't have to do it." But I knew I did. Because standing at the edge of this story felt like standing at the top of that mountain all over again. Who do you want to be? The girl who tucks her tail and runs when it gets hard? Or the girl who might die flying off the side of the mountain, but at least she went for it? The greatest gift I brought back is the realization that we are all reflections of God. And when we judge others, we're judging ourselves. I arrived in Morocco as a separated mother of two, traveling with two married men wearing tight cycling gear with exposed tattoos in an extremely modest Muslim country. And yet I was treated with nothing but kindness, generosity, and deep respect. Not once was I made to feel like anything less than royalty. In Morocco, they say, "You are welcome anytime." But it's more than a phrase. It's a reflection of their love for their fellow man. I had so many misconceptions about Muslims. What I learned is that they are some of the most compassionate, loving, God-fearing, and generous people I've ever had the honor of knowing. And now I know who I am.
Wow, Kerie. That was amazing. That was so beautiful. Yeah, give her some love. Absolutely. Yeah, if you want to, with your hands or put up the
Thank you.
hearts, whatever. I think that
Look at all of that. Y'all are amazing. Thank you.
I think we're going to switch up just a little bit. And I think now is a perfect time. I would imagine that there are some people here who resonate with your story in some way or another, and they might have a question for you. Are you okay to entertain some questions?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. If you have a question, let's see. I see some people. Janine, did you have a question? If you do, go ahead and unmute and ask.
What was the first step? What was the first light bulb that went off that made you go, I can do this?
So Layne had been my life coach for a few months before, and he was like, hey, I'm going, these are the countries that I'm going to, just pick one. And Morocco was like, bang, just, and to be honest, I didn't even know where Morocco was in the world. I had no idea. I didn't know what continent it was on. No idea. But God was like, this is the one. So, so I was like, okay.
And had you already read The Alchemist?
No, I had not.
Oh, wow.
I
Oh,
know.
wow. Oh, that's cool. That's so cool. Thank you.
Of course.
It's a great question. Thanks, Janine. Deanna.
Sorry, I didn't mean to raise my hand.
That's okay.
But
No
amazing
apologies
story.
needed. Okay, I see Lori's hand raised. Lori, did you have a question?
Nope, I didn't either. That was an accident trying to give her some love
That's
when we
okay.
were shooting off
Way
all
to
the little
go.
things.
Way to give her some love.
Appreciate it.
Does anybody else have questions? I see Andrea has her hand up. Go ahead, Andrea.
Kerie, how did you deal with fear getting ready to go?
How did I deal with my getting ready to go?
Like the fear.
The fear. Oh, a lot of that came with the training. So Layne sends like this beautiful, very well mapped out, I guess, guide to like those roadmap, the milestones that you need to hit. And just me getting out there every morning, riding my bicycle started to clear my head and clear the junk and like really give me the motivation that, you know what, this is something I can do. And I'll tell you, I was in the beach, like I was in Wilmington, North Carolina. So I had no mountains at all to train on, which was kind of frightening for me. But God took care of that too, because I rode my bicycle for quite some time, and I just noticed that it was getting harder and harder to push the pedals, that my legs were getting stronger. But like finally my bike was kind of shifting in and out of gear, and I was like, something is definitely wrong. So I took it to the shop, and the guy was like, yeah, it's going to be 3 or 4 days. And so I was like, whatever. And as I'm getting into my car in the parking lot, he calls me. He's like, hey, your bike's ready. That was fast. Apparently, when you cycle, you need to put air in your tires and oil on the chain. I didn't know that. So I rode my bike for 6 months without ever oiling the chain or airing up the tires. But I'm going to tell you, my legs got strong and I handled every mountain that every single one. So, you just learn as you go.
Very good, Kerie. That's one way of doing it, Kerie. If you don't got mountains, go ahead and flatten your tire and let your chain rust.
And ride
John,
your
you had
bike
a
too.
question. Go ahead, John.
Hello?
John? Okay, Lindsay. We'll go with Lindsay.
So I apologize, my camera's not coming up. It's on, but I just have this glow about me, I guess.
Okay.
So 2 questions, because I'm an avid cyclist, as Trevan knows. What was your what was your favorite part in preparation? And what was your favorite part in descending the mountain?
Oh, my favorite part in preparation was actually buying a derailleur hanger. There's a funny story with that. It was the first thing that I bought because it was cheap and I didn't have a whole lot of money. And they were like, yeah, you need it. And then later on, someone was like, you don't need that. Even if it breaks, first of all, it's never going to break on the road. You're fine. Second of all, if it breaks, no one's going to know how to put it on. But just like I just had this like little bug just nagging me constantly. Like you need the thing, right? So finally, day of, I was told again, don't bring it. And I was like, I'm just going to bring it. Guess what? On the very first day of the journey, I snapped my derailleur hanger. And Trevan put it on. So I guess just knowing that Layne had my back the whole time with that list and being able to check off those milestones was my favorite part of the preparation. My favorite part of the descent is when I let go and trusted the road. Because all of a sudden I felt so capable. And I had never owned my capability before, but my brain just felt the road. Like I could just see the pattern and I just knew what to do. And that synergy was magic to me because I realized that I have that synergy with a lot of other things. And it's kind of freed me up to like chase the descent in other ways. It's
Great
really
analogy.
Cool.
That was a great question. Any last question for Kerie before we move on? Okay. Once again, give her some love. Kerie, thank you so much for your story, for inspiring us to tackle our descents, because we all have them. We all need them. So thank you. I love Kerie. Kerie is amazing. Rosemary, I see that you squeaked in. You got your hand up. Go ahead and.
She's shaking her head now.
Oh no. No. Okay. Okay. Then if you would go ahead and turn the spotlight off of Kerie on your screen, and now put it on Trevan. Let's see. Let's get Trevan up here. He'll speak in a minute. Trevan is a man that I deeply admire, respect, and love. Trevan first joined me 7 years ago going through Europe. And I remember during that, he was hungry for an awakening, hungry for something that he needed, a deep shift in his life. And it was incredible watching his journey and seeing the breakthroughs, especially at the end when he thought it was all done. There was a final test that he rose up to magnificently. Since then, we have become brothers, not just friends, not just great friends, but brothers. And I cherish this man. I'm excited for the story that he's going to share because he also has gone through some deep work within himself to share with you something that I know will be profound for all of us. So Trevan, take it away.
Oh, thank you very much, Layne. Yeah, before my trek to Morocco, I carried a weight that had nothing to do with my bike and everything to do with the expectations that I placed on myself. I believed that I could never be good enough, not for my family, not for myself, maybe not even for God. And I had convinced myself that I was responsible for everyone's emotions, that I had to carry their burdens as well as my own. And so even before I set foot on the rocky roads of Morocco, I was already exhausted. But I had hope. that if I could feel God's love for me personally, it might change everything. And so I set out on this trek, not knowing that the journey that I had planned for my body would become even more of a journey for my heart and soul. Though the trek was at times brutal, because like we rode across smooth roads and unforgiving terrain, carrying all our gear in trailers behind our bikes. Some days were manageable, but others really pushed me to my limit. And then there was the hardest day, the day I almost broke. The sun was relentless, burning my skin, sapping my strength. The climb stretched on 8, 10, 12% plus grades consistently, with no breeze, no shade, and barely any water remaining. So dehydration, it got to the point where dehydration blurred my vision and slowed my thinking and made every pedal stroke feel nearly impossible. Just felt like I was pedaling through molasses. I knew I couldn't last much longer. Finally, I stopped under a lone shade tree and, desperate to find more water in my gear, of course there was nothing, just 4 ounces left in one of my bottles. Not enough to make it. I had no idea where we would find water. But in that moment, I prayed, Father, we need water. Please help us find it, or send someone to help. A few minutes later, as I was walking towards Layne, I saw a muddy hole near a storm drain. It was dark, it was filled with trash, and I thought, well, this is why I brought my filter. This will be a good test. I knelt beside it, ready to test it out, when out of nowhere, a car pulled up. And the driver, a cheerful man, stopped and asked where we were from. And Layne answered, America! And the man grinned and said, I love America! Layne asked if he knew where we could find water. And the man said, 10 kilometers ahead. And then he drove away. Well, I turned back to the hole, resigning myself to drink this filthy water. And after I had climbed down and started pumping and filtering this disgusting water, the man returned, holding out a bottle. In Morocco, there are 1.5 liter bottles of water, holding out a mostly full bottle of water. And we thanked him profusely and then divided it amongst ourselves and, of course, rationed it very carefully. And it wasn't enough to get us 10 kilometers, but it was something, and we were grateful for something. So I went back to the hole and started pumping again. And then minutes later, the man returned again, a third time. And this time he handed us five more full 1.5 liter bottles of water. He returned so quickly, I don't even know where he could have gone to get that water and come back so quickly. It just blew my mind. He just felt like a guardian angel to me. 7.5 liters of water, more than enough to get us to our destination. In just 15 minutes, my desperate prayer had become answered. And not with just enough. God had provided abundance. And I felt something shift inside me. God saw me. He knew what I needed. And he sent help in a way that I never could have planned. Several days into the trek, another kind of challenge surfaced. This one was not physical, but emotional. One night, we stayed in a small, nearly empty hotel, and Layne invited us to reflect on what had triggered us throughout the journey. At first, I thought I had nothing to share. But then I remembered something from the very first day, a moment when my bike chain had locked up in the middle of the city. The whole drivetrain was just seized, and I had never had it locked up like that before. A local man had run over to help, but I didn't want his help. I felt embarrassed. I judged him for pushing his way in. But as I reflected that night, I realized the truth. I wasn't judging him. I was judging myself. I felt ashamed for getting into that situation, felt embarrassed for causing a delay. I wasn't mad at him. I was mad at myself. Layne guided me through an exercise, asking me to recall the earliest time when I had felt that kind of embarrassment. And pretty quickly, a childhood memory surfaced, one that I had never connected before. And as I looked back at that little version of myself, Layne encouraged me to see him with compassion and to forgive him, to forgive myself. And for the first time, I understood something. My judgments of others were just reflections of the judgments I held against myself. The victim mentality I clung to protect myself wasn't serving me. It was hiding me from the responsibility that I needed to take to heal. That night was a turning point. The trek continued, but something had changed within me. When challenges came, I didn't see them as things that were happening to me. I saw them as a choice. When I struggled, I remembered Layne's words. I need do nothing. I choose to. I started taking ownership of my emotions, my reactions, my journey. The weight of expectation was lifted, replaced with a newfound freedom. When I look back on this trek, I don't just see mountains climbed or miles ridden. I see a journey into God's love, a love that isn't distant or abstract, but personal. A love that met me in my exhaustion, in my self-judgment, in my need. A love that provided water when I was thirsty, healing when I was hurting, and a new way of seeing myself and others. And that's what I want to leave with you tonight. No matter where we are in our journey, no matter what burdens we carry, God sees us. He loves us deeply, and He will be there to help us. We don't have to carry it all alone, and we don't have to have it all figured out. We just have to be willing to take the next step and trust Him that He will meet us there. Thank you.
Wow. Yeah, thanks for all the love you're giving him. Trevan, I love that. What I think is really fascinating is how both of these magnificent people hesitated in creating their stories. Like they already had the stories, but to fashion them in a way for public consumption was something that both of them had some resistance to. And they overcame the fear, the doubt, and the effort required to do this in order to share with us their inspiring stories. I thank you, Trevan. Thank you, Kerie. Thank you. I'm sure that there are people who have questions for Trevan, so let's open it up. Please go ahead and raise your hand, and I'll ask you to unmute, and then you can ask Trevan any questions you have. Unless there are none.
While you're thinking of questions, I will say, I can attest that Kerie almost gave up every morning. She got up and climbed out of her tent, and she was like, all night, I didn't sleep. And I was thinking about how I was going to get a taxi to the airport to go home every night. It was incredible. I was so proud, Kerie, of you just pushing through it all the time. It was your decision. You chose it, and you just kept pushing through. I was amazed.
I had forgotten that. Thanks for that reminder, dear. That's hilarious.
That is hilarious. Okay, Camille. Camille has her hand up. Go ahead, Camille.
Yes, Trevan, thanks for sharing that. I was thinking about your story about starting to pump the water and the dirty water, and then, having the man come back. I think you said 3 times. And I think this is what you said, but I've been thinking about it a lot and just want to make sure I heard it right, that you think that step that you were willing to take to pump that dirty water was part of the equation for getting the help that you need. Is that kind of how you interpreted what happened to you?
That's a good question, Camille. The way I saw it was, I'm going to do all I can do, And this is what I can see that I can do to help partner with God to solve the problem. And so I didn't just, throw the request up there and just expect him to bring roast duck to me on a silver platter. I'm going to do what I can do where I am. And when I saw that hole and I knew I had spent a lot of money on a really good filter, didn't realize that I would also need a carbon-based filter to be able to filter out the rest of it. Because it definitely did not get the water clean enough for any of us to feel comfortable drinking. There was still color in it. But yeah, that I just did that because that's what I could do. And while I was waiting for the miracle, I thought I'd just make myself useful. And I thought, man, this is a great opportunity to test my filter.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, thank you. It just brought to mind something that's going on with me. I thought maybe I need to take some more action. So thanks for sharing it.
You're welcome. Great question.
Beautiful. Thanks, Camille. Lindsay, go ahead.
So, Trevan, kind of the same question that I asked Kerie. What was your hardest part and what was your most favorite part of preparation and the trip?
Well, this is my 5th trek with Layne. So not my first rodeo. I kind of knew what to expect as far as the travel and, the challenges that could arise in even getting my bike there. I've had the bike turn up missing, not arrive with me at the airport in my destination before. I've had all kinds of things happen. So has Layne. And that didn't happen this time, fortunately, but I was well acquainted with that. So I don't think I came with any resistance. The training, since I knew by experience what I was getting into, it was not hugely stressful for me. I just knew I needed to, get the training in. So I don't know, Lindsay, that I can really identify anything prior to the trek. I was just excited. But on the trek, I've been through a lot of mountain climbs before. I've towed a lot of heavy, pulled a lot of gear on my bike and stuff like that before up steep terrains. But man, there was one day, not even the hard day that I talked about, another day that we climbed. Layne, I don't remember how much we climbed that day when we were going over all the rough roads. So we got to the top of this huge mountain summit, and there was a beautiful overlook there, a pretty decent road leading up to it, this beautiful overlook. And then Layne was like, man, I hope the road is paved the rest of the way. And almost immediately after he said that, it went to pot. It was literally boulders and big stones. I don't know how anybody got up that side of the road. It was only paved up to the top on one side. Anyway, that was pretty difficult, hauling our trailers and trying to dodge boulders and everything while we're flying down this mountain. But honestly, that was not the hardest part for me. The hardest part for me was the emotional part, was opening myself up to coaching. I'll remind you, this is my 5th trek. And it's taken me 5 treks to get here. I have had epiphanies and transformations at each of my treks, but nothing like this one. And I think it's because I just allowed myself to be coached by Layne and really be introspective and finally allow myself to try on some of the concepts that I had resisted for a long time. And it led to an amazing transformation. So I'm grateful, Layne, that you kept persisting with me and doing so without judgment and helping me feel safe in opening up. It was very difficult for me to do, but that was, I think that was the key. We can climb mountains, right? We can go do all the things, but without that element of it, I feel like the transformation isn't there. So it's the combination of those two things that really, really does it.
Kind of comparing you using the pump to get water out of the ground, even though you didn't use it, and then going back to Kerie's story, where you and Layne were passing her up. She never gave up. She kept going.
Thank you.
In fact, Kerie wouldn't say this because she's modest, but she passed me up multiple times climbing.
Later on.
But you passed me multiple times, and I let you go, girl.
Yes.
That was amazing.
You were always both of you were so supportive. And Trevan, I just want to say that I have seen the transformation in you from our Zoom calls beforehand. And now there's just this light in your face and in your eyes, and it's there every time I see you. And, bravo for your vulnerability, because man, we all had some of those post hard cycle day, just big vulnerable moments. And that's hard to do. And I'm just honored to be able to share this journey and to see you change into that person that you have wanted to be. I'm like, I've seen it. Like all of them, they see the light, right? Because they're looking at you. But I'm like, I remember watching that grow. And now I see it every time I see you. And it's just wonderful.
I have to say, and Leslie, you probably want to say something too, but I have to say, Kerie, it seems like every 5 minutes she was being transformed. And I was just like feeling left behind. She was just talking about how this is so transformational. If you've ever seen the Disney movie, what is it?
Tangled.
Tangled? Yeah. Where she's just so energetic and then she's depressed. And then she's so energetic. That's Kerie. Anyways.
That was me.
It was awesome. But she just kept having these transformations. And honestly, I was deeply jealous. And I'm like, what is wrong with me?
But it pushed you.
Yes, we kept at it. And finally, after 3 or 4 days, finally at that hotel, we had a breakthrough. So yeah.
It's true. Beautiful. Leslie, we'd love to hear from you.
Well, I haven't thought through ahead of time what I might say, but I can attest to what Trevan's talking about. He came home telling me how transformed he felt. And honestly, sorry, we've got construction going on. But when he said that, I'll admit, I thought, you've been on 4 others. We'll see. Everyone has been powerful, and he's brought home some really great nuggets that have shaped him. But he was talking about this one having really turned things around. Lifelong stuff being resolved in this one trip. And so I observed, I watched, and I started noticing the things that used to trigger him, set him off, get him frustrated. I had come into a habit of having to be really careful what I would say or how I would ask a question, because it would trigger him like a question. I would just ask a question, but he would take it as an attack. I'm just trying to get information, and he feels attacked all the time. And I haven't seen that since he's been home. It's a couple times. It's been mind-boggling. A couple times I would see what I thought was evidence that it was going to happen again, and he would catch himself. He'd be like, all right, hang on. I don't want to lose what I gained in Morocco. And so he turned it around, and we were able to proceed. And so it's just been miraculous, honestly. I'm so grateful. I don't know if any of you have experienced what it's like to walk on eggshells, and it's not like scary. It's not like that, but you don't want people to feel attacked when you're asking just a simple question. You know what I mean? And so it's just been it's been huge. And I'm just really grateful for everything that he's learned from Layne. I am signed up for, I'm signed up for Norway. And where he's talking about the resistance and the vulnerability and being willing to be coached, I'm afraid I might be a tough cookie. So we'll see how that goes. But
I'll be there. I'll help you. I'll have all the breakthroughs and then you'll be inspired.
yeah. But anyway, that's what I wanted to share.
Thank you, Leslie. It was beautiful. Any final questions for either one of them? All right. Wendy, go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, question for both of you. You know, you both talk about trusting God. You both talk about, you know, having your breakthroughs on your trips. I guess we're talking the Morocco one. Were there times where it was more the opposite of cursing God and saying, why am I doing this? Why are you putting me here? Where are you? Rather than being able to trust Him.
Do you want to go first? Or do you want me to, Trev?
I would just say, not that I've never felt that way in my life, because I'm sure I have, but I don't think I've ever felt that way on a trek. For me, the treks are just so exciting. I feel like a little kid. Like every time I go on a trek, I just feel so free and like I'm my best self. And so they're always so positive for me, even on the hard days when it's a hard climb, maybe it's a slog. It still is so joyful to me that probably the closest thing to it is when was it day 2? So day 1, Kerie breaks her bike. Day 2, I break mine. And so that was a challenge, but yeah, I wouldn't say I went to that place. It was more like just, how are we going to solve this? You know?
Yeah. So like, that's one of the magics. That's like one of the magical parts of the trek. It's like, cause before in my life, when something was challenging, it was more like, how do I suck? And then on the trek, it was more like, how can I get better? What do I need to do to shift? This is a challenge. Like, what do I need to do to, it was never like I'm lacking and that's just because I'm lacking. It was like, okay, I'm lacking now. How can I fix it? For me, I don't think I ever like cursed God, but I definitely, before I went on the trek, was like, God, what are you asking me to do? Like, why Morocco? Are you sure I'm hearing from you? Am I crazy? Like, Morocco, where is it? And where? I didn't even know what city I was going to book my flight out of because I was in Wilmington and I didn't know if I could leave. So I'm like, I don't know how to figure all this out. This is too big for me. Like, so I questioned God a lot. And I questioned my own self for like, am I actually hearing God or am I making this up? But then as I continued to move forward and trust, as you know, as Trevan said, like you keep doing the work, even if you don't know what the work is supposed to be, you just move forward and then God meets you. So like I had this insurmountable amount of stuff that I couldn't figure out on my own, but I was like, oh, I don't know where to move, except there's this one little box right here that I'm going to go toward. And as I did that, like God would open or handle like 3 other things for me and just pour that abundance. And I was like, oh, this is the right direction. So I'm going to go check that one box. And then he checked like 4 more. So, you know, I think that my questioning was before the trek, but definitely on the trek, there was just such positivity and such support and just support from both of the people that I was with, but God, and then everyone around me, that it was never a moment in the trek where I thought, you know, what did you make me do? You know, or I was upset about anything. It was just beauty after beauty after beauty.
There were a couple of additional questions. People said, Monica asked, how do you deal with the transformation coming home? What helps you not go back to your old self?
And I responded, I said, it's tricky to keep it. You know, it takes great intention and practice, which requires resolve to never go back to the way you were before. And that I think has been my key to success on this one. There's been a couple of times I've had to call Layne and say, Layne, help me get back to where I was.
Yes.
Because, you know, it flipped and it scared the heck out of me and I had to get back.
Yeah, resolve. Because I don't want to be an angry, anxious, judgmental person again. I know what that feels like, and it is bad. It does not feel good to feel that way. And so just working the process on my own, if I'm triggered, like just facing it, looking at it boldly and rewriting the story. And then, reaching out to Layne, because I've done that a lot where I'm like, okay, this one's too big for me to do on my own, or I don't even know how to start. Because sometimes I think it's easy to see, but sometimes you just get overwhelmed by it. And that's when, he comes up beside you and he's like, okay, remember these steps. And what are you telling yourself? So that's been just being diligent to work the steps as many times as I need to work them to stay this direction. Because I like this.
And let me add something, that this here tonight is one way we keep the momentum. Because transformation comes in speaking transformation. When we speak who we are and who we've become, then that brings it into life and it resists that gravitational pull that we have naturally to go back down. So the more we speak it, and especially when we speak it publicly, when we do the preparation that Trevan and Kerie both did, to say, no, I know that I changed. Here's where I changed. Here was the instant that really shifted things for me. Then you can't go back and say, well, I didn't really have a shift. No, you did. You pinpointed it, and now it's moving forward. Somebody asked, when is the next trip? The next one that is eligible is Turkey. Turkey is in the fall. It's at the end of September. We are going to a place where the apostles, the original apostles went, where there are churches built into the sides of caves, where there are underground cities. So between now and then, we're going to Chile and Norway, but that's one I would love to speak with anybody about to see if it's right for you. And I will say that most of the people who sign up, like Kerie, they don't even have a bike before they sign up. So don't let that be a deterrent. We've got 5 minutes left. The video is 12 minutes long. I'm going to honor your time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the link in the chat before everyone leaves. And in the final 5 minutes we have, we'll address any other questions. Denise asked, what equipment do you wish you had brought with you and will be sure to bring on your next trek? So Kerie and Trevan, what do you wish you had brought with you and what will you be sure that you take on the next trek?
Well, in that moment, realizing that my filter was not good enough, I definitely will have a secondary filter that has the activated carbon to get the rest of the stuff.
Excellent.
I felt really well prepared because I had Layne's guidance, but also Misty and John, who my brother had already gone on some of these tracks before, and then Trevan. I mean, like, everybody just kind of surrounded me and were like, be sure you do these things. And if I didn't have it, they supplied it for me before I came. So I felt like I had everything I needed. Really.
It's great. Lindsay asked, is there an age limit? The oldest person that I think that has joined me is up till now has been 60. I have had teenagers. Now the limit is at least 19 in order to join. And I will say about age, I know a guy who started cycling at age 70. At age 73, mind you, when a lot of other people are thinking, yeah, life has passed me up, I can't do anything like that. He went Canada to Mexico on a bike alone. At age 75, he went from the East Coast to the West Coast alone on a bike. So don't let age be a deterrent for you. That's just one of those stories we have that says, I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too fat, I'm too thin, I'm too white, I'm too black, I'm too, like, we all have those stories, and they're all garbage. They're just a story. So the main thing is willingness to commit. That doesn't mean half-hearted, but if you are committed, amazing things occur. Great question. And like Trevan said, yeah, many 70-year-olds pass us climbing up the mountains. Great. We have time for one final question if you have it. Going once.
Are you going to put the video link in the chat?
I'm going to put it in right now.
I've got a question for you, Layne.
Yes.
Did you have any transformations on this trek?
Absolutely, I did. Oh, do you want to know what it was?
Please.
You got 1 minute.
I got 1 minute.
Julie, what you
I got
got?
30 seconds. I have been a people pleaser. I want to say what I think people want to hear. And I stepped into my coach mode with both Trevan and Kerie. And there were times when I pushed, when the people pleaser would have wanted to back off. But that's not who I am anymore. And I am a stand for their growth. And so even if it comes at the expense of them looking down on me or getting angry at me, like, I'm not in charge of them. I'm in charge of me. And that was a big breakthrough for me. Here is the link. Please go look at it. I will say one caveat right in the beginning. There's supposed to be some narrative. The narrative is not there. The narrative should say something like, all day, every day, we pass doors, and there are doors, and we go into hiding. We hide behind the doors. But eventually there is one that opens up, and if you choose to open up, there is light. Morocco is the kingdom of light, and it was there that both Kerie, Trevan, and I discovered our light. And I just say that because each of you, is a brilliant light. Don't hide it. Thanks for being here tonight.
Hey, Layne, thank you so much.
Everyone.
Anybody who can stay a little longer, I don't think it would be a bad thing, Layne, to share your screen and go ahead and show the video for anybody who can stick around. And also, I had dropped a link in the chat. I'm going to go grab it again. If anybody wants to stay informed or get connected with Layne, just go fill out that form and he will keep you up to date on stuff. Also, an opportunity to talk to him personally about what you're working on and what's blocking you. Right, Layne? Is that still a thing?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
Leslie, thank you so much. And thanks for giving permission to go ahead and do that. If you need to go, by all means, go. Lots of love to every single one of you. And if you want to stick around, I will go ahead and share the screen. Hopefully you can hear it. Okay. It's a great video. You're going to love this. Let's see.
I'm nervous now.
We're going to go right there and share it. And I'll back it out. And let me know if you can hear it.
Yes.
Layne, can you
Can I what?
pause it for a second? Can you guys see the screen?
Mine just says click to exit full screen and it's blurred.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here.
Let me do that then. That way you can see it. Thank you, Leslie. Can you see it if I just keep it right here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Scroll your screen up a little bit.
There was just this moment when it all just clicked, like the fear melted away and the fun just flooded in, and I was like finding myself having to focus a little bit because I was just giddy with excitement.
We have just slogged our way through puddles. I would say more rivers.
Rivers. Yeah, it was definitely
Torrential rain.
Oh my gosh.
the first rain that Morocco has had this year.
Yes.
And it happens when we're here.
All at once.
It's crazy.
Are you happy to be here?
I am thrilled to be here.
Trevanator is there in the bedroom. Assembling. Have you named your bike?
Stallion.
Stallion. He's assembling Stallion, right? And have you named your bike?
Pepper.
Pepper.
I thought you said heifer.
Oh no, Pepper. Don't listen to him, girl. You know you ain't a heifer. Right.
Of course, Kerie's out here in the central room, assembling her bicicleta, the heifer. Hey, I mean Pepper.
Well, we're getting ready to start day one of the journey around Morocco.
Now, if you're going to travel, that's the way to travel.
Wow, that's incredible.
Mm. Oh yeah.
Something I didn't fully anticipate, even though I'd read a little bit about, is how everybody is dressed from head to toe. About how we are in shorts, very bright, vibrant shorts. And like you can see this fellow right here passing. dressed head to foot. All the women, they are dressed all the way head to toe. So I'm a little conscious as we may decide to switch our apparel a little bit. Hello. 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 All right, Kerie. So we have a second mishap of the day. We have a broken derailleur hanger.
Right here.
Okay, we'll figure this out
Okay.
somehow. Poor Trevan, that poor guy, absolutely shredded his wheel. There were probably 5 or 6 spokes absolutely broken, and he has the wrong spokes to actually fix it. So, yeah, this is not a hub for professional bike shops. So we're gonna have to go back to Marrakesh, or Marrakesh, as they say, and figure out how to move forward. Those tires are good tires until they're not. I had a hole all the way back in Mesa, and my guys said, nah, we put some fluid in it. Don't worry, it'll be fine. It'll seal up. And it did for a while, and then it didn't. The other guys, they're up ahead. They're probably having lunch right now. And they were. Oh, this man said, I will go to any length for water, even there. So look at it. There he is. Trevan, the man, the myth, the legend. And there's that water. I see snakes and platypus and
so we're
little brown turds. And
this is going to be our true test of the MSR filter right here. Yeah, we're going to filter that sludge.
Oh. No.
all right, how do you feel?
Completely tired.
Completely, I'm sure you're exhausted. And Trevan, how do you feel?
Amazing that we did that.
Like
That
it
was-
really is amazing.
That was an accomplishment.
Yeah.
Notice no pictures of the bumpy roads because it was too bumpy.
I looked dead.
He gave us some lentil. It's like
Oh, it was so good.
It was delicious.
Yes,
perfect.
You wanted to take him home with you so bad.
Yes, yes.
Whiskey Morocco. There.
Look at this. Yes, we're videotaping. She's back on her bike. Look. The derailleur is back in place. Thanks to that man. Yeah, team effort primarily led by Trevan. Wow, check out the sky now. Unbelievable.
So Trevan now gets to ride the cool, whatever they call this, with the motorcycle, and then the trailer.
Bonne journée.
The guy just brought more water.
Did he?
He did.
Are you kidding me?
I know, I'm not kidding you. 2 of them.
I'm still gonna test this.
3 of them. What is your name?
My name is Fatah.
Fatah.
Yes.
You are a man of God.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can we pay you?
No. I don't want to pay. No.
No. Just, okay.
A favorite.
Here. We had a traffic jam of sheep. And how did you feel up at the top?
I was terrified. I was literally like, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. And I just made it down the mountain.
You ready?
Oh,
So thank you. I'll stick around for anyone who does have a question. We did not do laundry every day. We did laundry like every third or fourth day.
Yeah.
Tamara, go ahead. Tamara, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to clap.
Okay. Hey,
I guess
thank you,
I guess I would like to know, Layne, how did you get started in this?
Wow. So let me answer a couple of questions first. Lindsay asked, what type of bike? Gravel bike. Sylvia asked, how many days was this? This was 10. How did I get into this? My dream was to cycle across America, and it was impossible to my mind. I was married, 7 kids, job, mortgage, student loans. How in the world do you take 3 months off and bike across America? You don't. You say someday or retirement. And someday is just code word for never. So with the support of family, we figured out a way. In 2009, we loaded our family up into an old motorhome. We drove to the western tip of Washington, and we crawled our way over to the eastern tip of Maine, my family in the old motorhome, me on a bike. And occasionally they'd get their bikes down and they would go with me. And sometimes Gayleen would say, Layne, I want a bike today. You drive the dang vehicle. So we would swap. And after that, I was pleading with God, what's next? What's next? What's next? And I was guided through a process where at the end of it, I looked at what I'd written and it scared the heck out of me, because it said, cycle every country in the world and figure out how to make your living through that. And so it's been quite a journey, but I can tell you that my life purpose, I know it. I know it with everything in my body. That my purpose is to help people live adventure. This is not the only way. Adventure comes through challenging limits on all kinds of things on the spectrum. But I know this is how I am going to help people live adventure. So 2012, I did a solo trek from Lisbon, Portugal to Rome, Italy. And I got triggered. Like there were so many fears that came popping up. They didn't bubble up. Like they were up there hitting me in the face. When you're dealing with different languages, different cultures, and you're all alone, you don't have a GPS, you have a paper map. You're not even sure if you're on that squiggly line that is on the map. And it was the toughest thing I've ever done. It was also the most spiritually awakening thing that I've ever done. And 2 years after that, I got my first client and snowballed from there. Yeah. Thank you, Don. So we're going to help more of us do this. Sylvia, I do these now 4 times a year.
So, Layne, I do have a quick question. That's
Sure.
Lindsay. So I've got a road bike, but I can put wider tires on it. Is it? Can those go? Do you have to have a gravel bike for it?
Well, the thing is, you want a more upright position.
Right.
And a lot of times the road bikes keep you bent over. Now, there are ways around that. You can adjust the stem, of course.
Right.
I had, Trevan, do you remember Leanne? Leanne, she had a road bike. How old was she? Was she 58, 60?
She was in her, I think she was 60 or maybe a little older.
Maybe 62. I can't remember, but I do remember she had a road bike. She struggled with it. Sometimes we end up going on gravel roads. Morocco, we knew that there would be some gravel. They had an earthquake a year prior. And so a lot of the roads were ripped apart. Most of the time I look for paved roads, but you can't always guarantee that you're on a paved road. So that's why I encourage people to steer away from a road bike, because they're skinny tires and they're more jarring if you get on a gravel path. But it's possible. The best bike is the one you have. So as long as you can attach the trailer to it and your heel's not hitting the trailer handle, that's a concern about the road bikes. The geometry doesn't always lend itself to putting something on it.
Right.
And you can generally rent a bike when you get there for $300 to $500, depending on the country. But
yeah,
that's another option.
Okay.
Yeah, great question. Any other final question before we say goodbye?
Do we have to say goodbye?
We don't have to say goodbye. Like, we can stick around. I am mindful of everyone's time. And I applaud you for staying around to watch the video. If you could give me some feedback on the video, that would help. I'm going to go back and do some tweaking with the sound and add some narrative. But Sylvia, yes, I do private coaching outside of world touring. This happens to be the main way I do it, but it's not the only way.
And I can attest to the coaching because I did private coaching with him before I did the trek. And he's amazing either way, really. So if the trek is not something accessible to you, I highly recommend doing the private coaching. it gave me the courage and the breakthroughs that I needed to be able to do the trek. So
That's true.
mhm.
That was well put. Nice, Kerie. So if you're going to stick around, if you could give me some feedback. Oh, Lindsay, go ahead. You need to confirm something that you heard about me.
Yeah. I've heard that you're amazing. And just from what you said and demonstrated tonight, I see that it's true, but I just want to make sure that it's true from you.
I am an emperor of light with divine energy coursing through my veins. I am that everyone is the expression of God, and I connect with them light to light. I am the living embodiment of adventure. If you want to say that's amazing, absolutely. I just say I try to be the expression of God. And what comes through me is what works. It's not about me. It's about what comes through me and what comes through you.
Right.
Lindsay, can I say that watching Layne taught me to see the light in others, to see the light and God in them, because I'd be behind him in a lot of the interactions, like standing behind him, and I would see him connect with someone and I would see their eyes just pop open. And it was like, whoa, he brings that out of people because he brings it so intuitively, and he looks around for those who are looking for it. And when there's that connection, you see it every time. It's tangible. And to see other people brighten up, and then the things that unfold because of that, it's just it's worth going to witness, because then you can use it in your own life. And now I've been able to do that with others, and my nursing practice has just blossomed, and I have lifelong friends now. They're not patients, they're my friends. I've become a mentor to them because I've connected with them so spiritually because of what I learned from him, from watching Layne.
Okay.
Thanks,
you.
Kerie. Marilise asked, I've heard that there may be a Spain trek next August, not this coming August, next year, August. We are doing one right during the eclipse, which will pass through Spain at that time. And Lindsay, thank you so much for your question. I love that you asked that. Mm-hmm. And Leslie has her hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it. Number one, what you described, Kerie, we saw from Layne on our conference and cruise last October. Layne was one of our featured coaches there, presenters, and he just took care of the group so well in that way, and they all got to experience that. But also, just a little piece of trivia, fun fact, Trevan first met Layne when he was working at a company, and Layne had been brought on to be the dream manager. He was a dream manager at this company to help people connect with, discover, and achieve their dreams. And I just think that's the coolest kind of job in the world, and that we're fortunate enough that Trevan got to meet him through that avenue.
Thank you, Leslie. I'm the one who's fortunate. I love you both so much. Okay. Go dream big. I will tell you, we'll have more videos coming out because we're going to Chile in less than a month. We're doing Norway, and some of the people here are doing Norway this summer. Yes. We're doing Turkey in the fall, and we're going to have a regional one in Utah in November. So if a shorter one, if something more regional is along your lines, that is a fantastic possibility. And it is, the route that we take has been called the second most beautiful highway in America. Next year, I can't remember everything that's on it. And I don't have actual dates, Lindsay, for Utah. I know it's in early November. I think the first week in November. Madagascar is in the mix, along with Spain, and I can't remember the rest. And it is Southern Utah. Yes, Esther. Yes, it's Southern Utah. Utah Highway 12 going from, I think it's like Bryce Canyon over to Capitol Reef. It's just fantastic place.
Oh, and Layne, one thing that some people on the call might not be aware of is that you lead the weekly forum about once a month. It's like this. We're talking about success principles. And if you are not already getting the Rare Faith newsletter to know when those are, I just dropped a link to that in the chat. So you'll get to see Layne once a month on average if you want to be a part of that. Yeah, we'll let you know more about that if you sign up for that. So.
And if you're not part of Rare Faith, Leslie and Trevan's amazing program, you should do yourself a service and find a class that works for you, because it is fantastic. The principles and the values that they teach to help people live more fully into the life they deserve.
Thank you, Layne. Yeah, the weekly forum is a subscription, but every once in a while we do a free event like tonight. And so you'd be notified of both of those types of opportunities. So I think that's all I needed to share. And Layne, thank you so much for putting this together tonight, and Kerie and Trevan for sharing your experiences and everybody's questions. Just appreciate you being a part of it.
Yes. Thank you. Much love. See you.
Thanks.